Can't believe it's 20 years. 20 years. Doesn't seem like it's that long. But trying to explain this to anyone who's under 35 years old, it's not easy. I mean, it's almost like you can't. It's like someone who lived through Pearl Harbor trying to explain that event to someone my age. And we're just not going to get it. You weren't there. You didn't see it, that emotion. Say it about investment books. You can read as many as you want and all these risks until you go through it, until you're so sure on something and you just get wrecked and go through that experience of those emotions. That's when it sticks with you. That's when the lessons learned. That's when everything, just those feelings come out. And this was an event that made the world stop. Showed us how vulnerable we are in the U.S. We had this pride and we're great, we're awesome, we're strong, best military, and holy cow. Also showed the power of unity as we all came together during one of the toughest times, if not the toughest time most of our lives. But seeing so much of this again on all the channels, there's no politics. MSNBC did a great job. They did a live replay, like the live replay of that day, just showing the whole entire thing. To the 60-minute piece they did on the FDNY, the fire department, during September 11th, a must-watch. One of the most powerful things I've ever saw. Holy cow. Holy cow. I mean, to the stories people told who were in the Twin Towers when the planes hit. And even to that Mets-Yankees game, how great was that? It was on September 11th. It was electric, the atmosphere, unity. Players wearing NYFD, NYPD caps. Bring back Joe Torre and people from back then and just showing the president's pitch and that strike and how big of a deal that was. And it really was. We just brought back a lot of memories, both good and bad. In my experience, I worked on Wall Street before September 11th, and then a few years again after. I went to work at the street, but I was not working in New York City at that time. I was living in Queens still. But a lot of my friends did. And the stories they told me, some of them were covered in white dust. They couldn't get out of New York City until that night. The phones weren't working, so their families didn't know if they were alive. So one of my closest friends at the time, his brother-in-law, one of the top people in NYPD, one of the first to respond, along with the fire commissioner, and Giuliani was there. And they're waiting to see what to do if the second plane hit. They're like, okay, we need to speak to the building inspectors, engineers. So they're waiting for them to get there. They get there. They said, there's no way those buildings are coming down. So his brother-in-law sent in around 20 police officers into burning towers. Every one of them died. So these are people that he knew closely, at least some of them, right? And knew their families. And think about that for a minute. You forget a lot of this stuff in those stories. And again, it's not a knock on the building inspectors at all. And you're looking at there was no high-rise steel building that ever collapsed from a fire in history. And then as they saw the floors coming down a little bit and getting reports as those guys climb those floors, it was too late. I mean, not too late. They still got a lot of people out and said, hey, you know what? The structure, it's probably going to collapse. I saw it in 60 Minutes when they got that message to them. And then, boom, the first one collapsed. The first tower. But you're looking at this where the planes, they hit the 60th floor and the 80th floor. So the building inspectors didn't know. Even the police, fire department didn't know. I mean, the 60th and 80th floor, I don't know if you realize how big Twin Towers is. You could be across the street and you could look up and not see the top. I mean, you'd have to, your neck is as far back as you possibly can. You can't even, that's how big these buildings are. So you're like, okay, you're good. You can go in, let's get people out under the 50 floors and then try to get everyone out or whatever. A lot of cops died that day. A lot of firemen died that day. But I saw his brother about 2 months later. Totally different person. Quiet. Kind of just staring at things. Never smiled. I think I saw him another time after. Never smiled. A lot of people. How do you come back from that? You're going to be fucked up for life. You're trying to do your job. Trying to save people. Now, this happened on Tuesday. So on Thursday morning, I wanted to get down there. I wanted to see it for myself. I live in New York my whole entire life. And I was just taking the M train from Queens, New York, where I live, to see, if I can get down there. But that train goes straight down to Wall Street. One train. If you go to Midtown, you got to take another train. You go any place to get. This train just drops you off. You just go to Wall Street, but also, one of those stops is World Trade Center. And most of New York City was on lockdown. Not a lot of people allowed in or out of the downtown area unless you were helping and they had the right proper, identification and badges. It was blocked probably up to Midtown. And you had to be law enforcement, fire department, helping, bringing food. I said, let me try. Let me get on. This train goes right downtown to the World Trade Center. I went with my girlfriend at the time. So everyone on that train were workers, cops, firemen. A lot of them would dress down. I'm thinking, if they ask me to get off, I'll get off. If they ask us to get off, and everyone had blank stares and just, it was crazy. Like nobody knew what to do. And again, this is still in rescue mode here, right? Because people were still trapped. They're trying to rescue them. I'm surprised nobody questioned us. But, we kind of look like we belong. And next thing I know, the train just kept going. We got off the World Trade Center, made our way upstairs. I'll never forget it. The mist from that dust still in the air, rubble everywhere. We were right, the Twin Towers right there. Hundreds of people, which is probably thousands, but it was hundreds where I was. It was searching for survivors. It was very, very quiet. I talk about New York City downtown, cabs, loud, horns, traffic, people everywhere. It was just quiet, very, very quiet. And I remember looking at everyone's face, and it was just like our face. It was just, is this a dream? Is this real? Is this really happening? And when I go back to that day, it's easy to think about the negatives. It's easy to think about sadness or even get angry and pissed off. The way I remember this event, or what I think about today is, and this is from being there, is the unity, the patriotism, how everyone came together. Didn't matter politics, race, gender, what country you were from. It didn't matter. It was a traumatic event that impacted all of us. And it quickly let us know what's really important in our lives. Living, our families, our freedoms. But just seeing everyone working together. You're looking at all the stores that were open, and there wasn't a lot. So the Starbucks, McDonald's, restaurants. And the workers went there. They were giving free food, free drinks to everyone. People drove from places like Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Eventually they would drive from California and everything like days later. The firemen, policemen from departments all over the country came to help. All of them looking through the rubble, trying to find survivors. What was it, 70-something police officers died? 340 firemen died that day. There was 23 battalion chiefs that responded. Only 4 survived. These are people that ran up 50 flights of stairs with 70 pounds worth of equipment. Not one refused to go in to save the 2,000 people that were trapped above the fires in the towers when they were burning. Again, watch that 60 Minutes piece. Unbelievable. You're hearing those people get up to those floors, trying to create a stairway, trying to help these people get down before they collapsed. So 2,000 people trapped above the fires, and there was 17,000 people in the World Trade Center and those towers when the first plane hit. So these guys helped, say, 14,000 people get out. Some got out right away as soon as the plane hit, but, holy cow. And just watching everything and bringing back those memories and those stories. We do things on September 11th, not like we did this weekend. And you had the people, these firemen, their kids wearing their father's uniform. And a lot of them following their father's footsteps, just like I followed my dad's footsteps. But after September 11th, something interesting happened, at least to my age group. And remember my friends who lost friends or family members in September 11th, they winded up, marrying their girlfriends, a significant other. Those that were married had kids. Guess it was kind of like the baby boom years after the war. In 1946, more babies were born that year than any other year. It's 20% more than 1945. But when you see something like that and you live through it, you start taking life more seriously. And that's for anyone. It's not just a September 11th. It's if for me, losing my dad was huge. I was young. My dad was, young. He died very, very young. And that's your hero that dies, right? And you don't have that person to be proud of you, to tell you they're proud of you anymore. I mean, it's a big event, something I've never really dealt with emotionally. And for me, I took things more seriously, especially when it came to work ethic. I started focusing on my strengths a little bit more, not letting them just, let talent waste away or anything like that. But, just married, kids, family. And my take from all of this is don't wait for something dramatic to happen to be the person that you're meant to be. Everybody waits and, they mess around and have fun, and you should have fun and enjoy it. But that's the most important thing, right? Enjoying it. And there's so much anger out there. Over what? Over bullshit. Over people making us choose that want power. It's just, when you look at everything, it's pretty insane right now. It's a crazy world. But don't wait to be the person you're meant to be. I mean, one of my favorite quotes is from Mark Twain, when he says, the two best days of your life are the day that you were born and the day you find out why. That's pretty powerful. But for everyone out there listening, find out why. Because after a day like September 11th, and some of you, again, it wasn't even September 11th, there's something else in a school shooting or something changed. Life could be very, very, very short. Very short. And when you're dying there, you're taking your last few breaths, I mean, what are you going to say? What are you going to think? You say, wow, I lived a great life. I did everything I wanted to do while I was alive. Are you wondering how you're going to be remembered? If this taught us anything, guys, live your life. Live your life. Don't start tomorrow. Start right now.